Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. This is a Redmen Originals special. I'm Steve Hood, joined by Chloe Bloxham and by Dan Clubb, and we're going to have a little look ahead at Liverpool's pre-season. Yes, the Reds will play, technically 6, but we're not counting the Community Shield, depends what you count that as. So Liverpool will play 5 pre-season friendlies. They play Preston North End, they play AC Milan, they play Yokohama, and they play Athletic Club twice on the same evening. We're going to have a little chat about the things that we're looking forward to, maybe things that we're looking to learn during these games. Dan and Chloe will be on the tour to Asia as well, so we'll have a little bit of a chat about that as well. In the meantime, do let us know if you're watching live right now on YouTube, the things that you're most looking forward to seeing or things that you want answering during the next couple of weeks. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a mad couple of weeks, we know that, Chloe, but the football, Liverpool have announced, or didn't announce rather, it was confirmed that the games are going ahead, the players are back, there's pre-season, and ultimately they're all getting back to work and there's a bit of a job to do, and as is always the case with pre-seasons, there's always some questions going into it, things that we're looking forward to seeing, things that we want to learn. So if there's anything that you can think of now, what is it that you're most keen to find out during the next 5 weeks, or 5 games rather?
I'm most interested in looking at what the new players look like and how they fit into this slot system and how we'll play. Obviously, Frimpong we looked at Trent, and Trent had a slightly different role in the slot system than in the Klopp system. He probably didn't influence the game as much, and you've got Jeremy Frimpong there, who's known as such an attacking outlet. So it'll be really interesting to see what we do down that right-hand side. But for me, it is mainly where is Florian Wirtz going to play? Yep. What are the spaces that he's going to pick up? Is he going to naturally gravitate towards that left side still and carry the ball up and then find himself building up the play from the back to the front? Or will he hold down that number 10 position and stay pretty much high up the pitch and try and influence the game and the players around him up there? So, there's some interesting things to look at. What I will say is I did look into last season's pre-season and I thought Harvey Elliott was brilliant and was going to play quite a big part, and it turned out that he didn't. So there is things to learn, but also we don't actually know what happens behind the scenes, and we can sit there and think someone's had a brilliant pre-season, but they might just be there for the reason of helping everyone else get back to fitness and being part of the B team.
I think last year the difference was a lot of the guys have been on international duty, the various tournaments, and this time obviously they're not. He's pretty much going to have almost everybody on the tour, for example, where I was in America and loads of the players didn't even go, or I think Alexis McAllister turned off 2 days and things like that. So it got a little bit different, of course. The Virtual, I'll stick with you on that one then, Dan, because that is probably the biggest question. We know Liverpool have signed Jeremy Frimpong to play as a right back. They've signed Milos Kerkez to play as a left back, and they've signed Mamardashvili to be a goalie. We don't exactly know for sure. We think we know what Florian Wirtz is going to be and what he's going to do. I wonder if the manager tips his hand in pre-season of listen, he needs a few games to get ready. He's going to, wherever he deploys him in this pre-season, might give us clues for what the plan is going forwards.
Yeah, I think it will. And obviously a lot of what's been made of the signing was sort of centred around the fact that Arne Slot has sold him a project and he sold him a belief and a position, really. And this is where you're going to be for us. And you'd imagine a lot of the conversation would have been just around how central and how sort of important he will be for, not central positionally, sort of in terms of how important and how pivotal a role he'll play. So I think we will see quite early on what he's been bought for and what he's been brought into the squad to do and sort of bring to the squad and bring to the side. So it's going to be fascinating to see. I think it will be the major talking point from these early opening exchanges in terms of the matches. So, but I'm really excited to watch him, first and foremost. I'm really intrigued to see what he offers, because we've seen bits of him, we've seen sort of glimpses and highlight packages, and obviously the accolades he's achieved over in Germany, but to watch him up close and personal, to see just how intelligent a football he is and the positions he takes up and how creative he can be in the side. I think that is the one thing we did lack sometimes last season. We all loved Dominic Szoboszlai and the energy he brought and that relentless running, but he lacked a little bit in the creativity department. What makes it so intriguing is he's a wonderful footballer, first and foremost. He's been brought to play. We know that, don't we? But is how still well stocked we are in that position. Because you mentioned Harvey Elliott there. Obviously, you mentioned Dominic Szoboszlai as well. There's lads there. We own lads that play in that 10 role. So does Verge just come in and just usurp them instantly? You would imagine so. So I am intrigued by, obviously, there's a lot of noise around Luis Diaz right now as well. We know he's played out on the left too. He's played false 9 previously. So that, for me, and that first starting 11 over the weekend will be all eyes immediately drawn to Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, it's more like, say, it depends whether the manager's going to just put him in the team or put him where he wants him to pick. We won't really know until due course. The next one, Chloe, you mentioned the new signing, so Frimpong, Kerkez, and then Mamardashvili. I'm sure at some point over the next, again, 5 games, we're going to see all of them. They'll all start. There'll be different times to see different ones of them as well. It will be fascinating to see. I think Kerkez, we kind of know the role. It's very good. We're going to be very, very similar to what Arne Slot have asked us as left backs, but it's going to be interesting to see what the situation is with Jeremy Frimpong, first of all, because he is completely different than Alexander Arnold, of course. He's pretty different than Conor Bradley as well. They're different. He's way more attacker-minded, I think, than Conor Bradley. It'll be interesting to see if it's Jeremy Frimpong was just allowed to go and do what he did, or he's always done, whether it be at Celtic or at Leverkusen, or actually is Arne Slot going to tweak that role and ask him maybe to be a bit more of a normal right-back. We'll probably find that out over the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, we will, and, his position also relies on Mo Salah. We know that Mo Salah's been told to do less of the running back and mainly focus on saving his energy for the bursts forward, and that's done us well last season, obviously. So it'll be interesting because, if you're talking about the flying fullback that is Frimpong and how attacking he is, it'll be great in attacking scenarios, but when you're talking about in transition, if we lose that ball, you will have a massive gap because you won't have Mo Salah tracking back and no one covering the space of Jeremy Frimpong goes in there, and maybe that's important to see what Florian Wirtz looks like as well, because Dom Szoboszlai last season covered a lot of the ground on the right hand side as well. He was, if anyone was out of position, he was doing the running for Mo Salah most definitely, but he was also doing the running for Trent at times and other people. So if you then take him out of that role or that position, it'll be seeing what Florian Wirtz does, and if he is asked to do the same thing and the same level. And if so, does that affect his output going forward? So yeah, there's some interesting questions for us to find out, but it's all positives. I'm really excited to see how Jeremy Frimpong impacts a game of football. I'm so excited to see Florian Wirtz just on the ball, see how good of a technician he is, because like you said, we've all seen the clips, and even in the Nations League, was it in the summer, you saw some really good football from him. But at the same time, it's now doing it in a different system for Slot, where players are asked different things. And, he is a star boy, and he's, one of the main lads for the German side. But you come into this Liverpool side and it will be Mo Salah on that right wing is given all the licence to do whatever he wants, and everyone else has to pick up the slack for him because he's just that good. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see.
On Mamardashvili, Dan, it'll be interesting again. We've just become used now for so long to having Kevin Keller and knowing if Alisson's out, it'll be Keller, and there will be a bit of a drop off because there always will be from the best goalie in the world, but you know that you can still rely on him. Yeah. Mamardashvili's come in, big reputation, big money for a backup goalkeeper, £30 million for effectively a reserve player who you don't really want to be playing too many games. I'm not saying there's pressure on him in pre-season, because of course there isn't, but yeah, you don't want him to look shite even. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to come in and prove, because really, best case is he's as good or better than Keller. That's a pretty high bar for a backup goalkeeper.
No, he certainly is, yeah. If you're pardon the pun, Keller's always been a reliable, safe pair of hands, hasn't he? He's our backup goalie. And unfortunately, we've had to call upon him more often than I think we'd like, because whilst he has been excellent, and you could point to certain matches and certain cup finals where he's really sort of stood up and been counted for us, you want Alisson Becker in goal all the time because he is the best in the world, as you mentioned, but that hasn't always been the case exclusively. So when you are looking at Mamardashvili coming in now, you are expecting a certain level, because you touched upon Kelleher has reached that level and you want him to be better than that if possible. I maintain, I've said it a few times around the Mamardashvili signing, I think Liverpool believe that he has a higher ceiling than Kevin Keller ever did. Hence this swap we've seen this summer, essentially. I think they think he can get towards best in the world levels at some point. He's not there yet, but I think at some point when Alisson Becker does eventually move on, whatever that looks like, Mamardashvili will be of a standard required to sort of emulate what Alisson's done. He's massive, first and foremost. I'm fascinated. Obviously, just the general goalkeeping, his handling, his distribution, his shot stopping, that sort of stuff. I'm okay with that. I think that will be of the standard. I've seen enough of him at Georgia. I've seen bits of him at Valencia. Valencia really struggled last season. He was the one beacon of shining light, if like, in terms of their campaign. He's probably the reason they stayed up eventually. But I am fascinated to see, in terms of the ball playing, because obviously Alisson Becker's got that down to a T, hasn't he? I'm not quite sure Mamardashvili is anywhere near ready for that side of the game yet, so that'll be interesting. Obviously, we saw last season a bit more even under Arne Slot, like the keeper just stopping in possession, sometimes just waiting. You know what I mean? We never saw that so much under Klopp. It was quicker and it was more intense. So I do wonder how long it will take Marinos really to sort of develop that side of his game, really. But other than that, I'm comfortable with him being the number 2. Like
left back's interesting as well, isn't it, Chloe? Because we've got 3 of them at the moment. Again, we don't know where that's going to end up and what it's going to be. But we're all excited to see Kirkes. But actually, he's got Tsimikas, he's got Robertson as well. There's that balance of what he's going to do. We all believe if you spend the record, was it £40 million on a left back, one of the most expensive left backs ever, he's probably coming to play. So that I don't know, the timeshare, for lack of a better phrase, between those 3, it'll be interesting to see how the manager navigates that. It's a good problem to have. It's always good to have good players, but yeah, he's got to get all 3 of them enough minutes in pre-season because who knows what the future lies for well, especially for Robertson and Tsimikas.
Well, that's true, but also at the same time, if there is a player who maybe Liverpool have informed is going or we're looking to sell, yeah, you can play them, but also you risk the chance of injuries or something like that. So maybe if someone isn't, in the kind of, they might still be in the squad, but maybe, if first 45 is Robbo, second 45 is Kirkes or whatever, maybe then you realise which one Liverpool are maybe looking to sell or other teams are in for. But yeah, that'll be really interesting because you can't go into the season with 3 spaces for a left back. Like you can't afford that. The squad numbers aren't as big as you need them to be to have 3 fullbacks. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what we do there. I think everyone's really excited to see Kirkes because everyone's expecting the energy of a young Robbo when Robbo first came in and the kind of relentlessness. Yeah. And Robbo still has that and he has it in bursts, absolutely. And you still see the player that he was, but obviously he's been ran into the ground, let's not lie, because of the sheer system that he had to play. He was a flying fullback in a Jurgen Klopp system. That is not easy. And he did it at the highest level. And in the last couple of years, we have seen a drop-off, I think that's fair to say. But with Kirkes coming in, for me, it'd be really interesting to see if we could see that Robertson on that level more because he's getting more rest and it's where Costas, you were getting rest for Costas, but it was a case of he wasn't good enough to always keep Robbo out the team, which meant they kept switching. Where if Kirkes is good enough and we think he's brilliant, he's got the mentor in Robbo to help him, but also in big games, if Slot trusts Robbo more in those situations, then Robbo can come in and be fresh and be ready to give it 100% and put in those performances that we used to see. And it just helps him. It means that he's not as tired and he's not being used as much, which he probably won't like, let's be honest. But at the same time, if it means he plays 30 games instead of, 40, 50, but they're all at least 7, 8 out of 10s, then you'd much rather that than swapping and changing with Costas and people sitting there going, you've gave a pen away there, you gave a pen away there, you've done that there, you've done that there. It raises the floor of Liverpool, and that's really important.
Just quickly, sorry, on the left back thing, Chloe has been spot on in terms of you can't go into a season with 3 specialist left backs. That's what they are. They are just out and out left backs, all 3 of them. And I do wonder whether there might be a shop window kind of opportunity for Costas Tsimikas in particular. Maybe in the early part of pre-season, we might see a little bit more of him than maybe we might have expected. But I am fascinated by the use really of Kirkes, and I did wonder whether we'd go to a different profile of left back, a different style left back. Obviously, we haven't done. We've gone and signed a younger Andy Robertson, like you both sort of alluded to. And clearly he wants that up and down, relentless energy. The guy who's going to get forward and get back just as quickly. But I'm quite surprised by that, I must admit, because I thought with Frimpong being the right back signing and being so advanced, I wonder whether he might go to that hybrid left back, can play left side of centre half side, because are we going to have both full backs? But that's one of the things I'm actually really intrigued about in terms of pre-season. Are both full backs just going to go? And you're going to leave Van Dijk and Konate or whoever's alongside him on an island? The only thing you can assume is
Gravenberch drops a little bit deeper in those moments.
Possibly.
And maybe you go to a back
that
3.
Way. Yeah.
Because obviously when in times last season Gravenberch was just centre off and he fully trusted them in those positions, and actually let's not lie, he put in some decent, and look, it wasn't 90 minutes against the greatest opposition, it might have been 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, whatever. But it did work, so maybe that's something. Whether you lose Gravenberch on the half turn in that moment, like you probably would.
It's just fascinating to me because you're right, again, the Kirkes signing suggests that we do want that energy, but I wondered whether it was Robertson running out of legs a little bit, or whether it was Slot's instructions
Maybe,
sparingly stopping him doing that. It'll be fascinating to know. And now we've got, again, a younger, fitter, fresher version of it. Yeah. We might see this just all out fullbacks off you go. Obviously,
that was my next question. Is that no, not that. A little bit is more. We might see a change of formation. Like that's something to keep an eye out on as well, because there's been talk that maybe Florian Wirtz plays as a solo number 10, and then you have more of a two behind him, a McAllister and a Gravenberg or Szoboszlai, who by all accounts is going to be DP right. That is something that we might see. Having said that, in America you use loads of different formations, so I'm not sure how much you can learn too much. But next question, Dan, moving on a little bit. Let's talk about centre-backs. Obviously, Liverpool sold Joel Kwanzaa, we know that. So at the moment, they've got 3 senior centre-halves. It'll be great to see Joe Gomez back. Hopefully he can stay fit. Van Dijk, Konate. It'll be interesting to see, because we know how these things go. Usually, your centre-halves play a half each, and you do 2 and 2. Last year, for example, I was in America. Seth Vandenberg played a lot of games and a few other bits and bobs. It'll be interesting to see what that fourth centre-back role looks like now. Obviously, Liverpool haven't signed anyone yet. By all accounts, they're probably going to try and do so. Endo might get some game time there, and maybe that's his role going forward. There might be a young lad, maybe a Nalo or something. It'll be interesting to see as it stands what Arne Slot thinking is that fourth centre-back role, because someone's got to play it. Yeah,
there's definitely minutes to be had there, isn't there? I think it's fair to say, whether it is Endo or whether it be, you mentioned Amara Nalo, I think he's probably the prime candidate for it from the youngsters. I think Wellesley Lucky. I'm interested to see what the touring squad is, actually, to that note, because I think Wellesley Lucky and maybe Carter Pinnington have an outside chance of getting in, and they're 2 young centre-halves, so I rate quite highly, actually. So yeah, that will be fascinating, and Endo might have to sort of get his minutes there, potentially, because I'm not sure Stefan Bajcetic is going to be ready, because he had an operation quite recently, so he might miss this tour as well, which is a great shame for him, of course. But that might mean that Endo has to do more of the 6 stuff, and whether it be a double, you might need 2 rotating in there as well. So yeah, James McConnell probably falls into that bracket, I would say. Tyler Morton as well, if he hasn't left the club by then, in terms of sharing that workload, which means, again, Endo, I to the point, we have to do something in that centre-back department. We have to. I love Vitor Endo. I'm not comfortable with him being the 4th choice centre-back. Not when Joe Gomez is in the first 3 either. And I love Joe Gomez as well. But you can't go into a season with 3 senior centre-backs and Vitor Endo's your 4th. You have to address that. There's no 2 ways about it. But over the course of pre-season and the coming weeks, I think that will be shared by your youngsters and a little bit of Endo, etc.
The other thing is, do you remember when Andy Robbo was a makeshift centre-half for a little game there?
He played at PSV there, didn't he? Yeah. Just alongside,
Maybe it's a case of one half, it might be struggling. You just, because you've got 3 centre-halves, you just put Robbo at the centre-half. And look, that's 3 left-backs, so you put Robbo at the centre-half, and that's not what anyone wants to see, and I get that. But until we address that centre-back issue, if the players you've mentioned aren't at the, not level, because it is pre-season, but if you don't want to put them in the spotlight too soon, maybe you do just put Robbo as your left-sided centre-half after Verge comes off.
Especially early on, Claude, because that Preston game in particular is about fitness. Yeah. You won't be doing too much tactical stuff, because they haven't been around the training ground that week. That first friendly is usually about getting minutes, so that might just be the manager goes, I need everybody to get this amount of minutes, and you just fit them on the pitch wherever, because you're right, you might see everyone play anyway. But when they get on workload, when they get on the tour, and then especially around that Athletic Club game, you'll probably see more of his tactical kind of stuff. Dan, I'll start with you on next one, because obviously you watch more of the academy than most of us. Liam clearly says here, I'm excited to see youngsters like Rio Gamoa, Trey and Yoni. That is always the one. But I don't know positive, but it's always nice to see which youngsters, you mentioned before, like touring squad. That's a big honour for some young lads to get on that tour. These 2 kids might be, I mean, Trey and Yoni will be on that tour, you'd be shocked if he wasn't, but the likes of Rio, you mentioned before, a couple of others as well. It'd be interesting to see what the manager does there, because it's always a good honour. Liverpool got a really good squad, so there aren't going to be too many youngsters who go, but the likes of Rio, Trey, and maybe a few others, it'll be interesting to see who he takes. Yeah, absolutely, it will. It's a great experience for them, and it'd be interesting to see who Liverpool do choose, whether it be based on sort of what the squad needs and sort of positionally, or whether it be just based on, I say, pure talent and belief of sort of the steps they're ready to take, because there will be obviously under-21s, under-18 stuff going on at the same time back here, so it'll be a decision made on what's best for them and also what's best for Liverpool, of course. There's some of the names, but Trey will be there, I'm absolutely convinced of it. He's a first-team player. Yeah, he's a first-team footballer. I think Rio will as well, for what it's worth. I think the likes of Ben Doak, who's back from his injury now, he'll probably be in the round at 2. He's been really excited on some of these tours as well. Lewis Kumas had a decent season out on loan at Stoke. I think he'll be in the round. They probably want, again, shop window for some of these, I imagine, in terms of loan deals and maybe a couple of permanents as well. Jayden Danns is one I'm really, really interested in, because his season was
forgive me, a bit of a write-off last time around. He'll want to get involved in this tournament and be a proper part of it as well, I would imagine.
There's a player who I'm really interested in seeing, and it's because he didn't get a pre-season with us last season, and I'm kind of praying that that's the reason that he just wasn't used or things like that. But Federico Chiesa, I don't know how many times I have to say it, I need him to stay just for the song alone. Like, I'd love him to be brilliant for us, but the song is really what I'm interested in him staying for. But he didn't get a pre-season last season, and I think for the early part, for the first 6 months, let's say, I think Slot kept reiterating this lad's not had a pre-season, he's came back from big injuries. Hopefully with a full pre-season under Slot, he can become a decent player for us. Exactly, yeah. And look, we know that Mo Salah will dominate the games on the right-hand side, and he will play the majority of them, but it would just be nice to be able to rely and depend on Chiesa a little bit more than we did last year, because let's be honest, we hardly saw him last year.
I'll be shocked if he's still here, to be honest.
Same, but he's not gone yet, and therefore I want to see what he's like in pre-season, and if he can just, get a couple of games in a row, being able to stay fit and being able to just make himself an option, or at least give Liverpool something to think about.
That is the next question, actually, Dan. I'll come to you with that one as well. It's like, there's a lot of lads who, as it stands, we don't know where we're going to be at in a whatever. But like, they're going to start pre-season with a lot of lads whose futures maybe we thinking elsewhere. Yeah. Gerald Kwanzaa's already left, but the noise has been that Nunes, Chiesa, Elliott, probably all going to go. Obviously, Luis Diaz, there's a lot of noise around Luis Diaz at this moment in time. Maybe a couple of others in there. I meant Chiesa, I don't know if I said him before. And then you mentioned
situation,
one of the left backs. There's going to be a lot of lads there. That's something
Morton as well.
There's a lot. Liverpool are going into the start of pre-season with actually a pretty bloated squad. You talk about getting minutes into players. There's a lot of lads there who we don't know where they're at as well. It's always a fascinating one, really, of like, did they go on the tour? If they're waiting to get a move, that the manager got all this to come. Obviously, the tour's still a while away. Liverpool play this weekend against Preston. They don't fly out until the 20th, I think. The first game's on the 26th, so they've got plenty of time there for the pre-season stuff. But it will be interesting to see how they play all this out.
Yeah, that's why that name touring squad's going to be really interesting, because some of the names not involved will lend themselves to sort of what the decision might be around them. I'm thinking more of some of the youngsters there, because we spoke of left backs briefly earlier on. Like, there's 4 or 5 left backs beneath that. Owen Becks, Callum Scanlon, do you know what I mean? Luke Chambers. I imagine they'll all have loans, but Liverpool never had such a well-stocked left-back department. It's unbelievable right now, the depth in there. That can't last, obviously, you know what I mean? So I think the question marks, some of them will go a long way towards being answered when we get names and we start to see what the squads and the teams look like. I'm certain of it. But the key lads, the ones you touched upon right at the top there, your Harvey Elliott, your Chiesas, etc. How much or how little we see of them over the coming weeks is going to tell us a hell of a lot.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, but this lad's name just came back in my head. Calvin Ramsey, is he back?
No, he went on loan to Milan. He's a Liverpool player.
He'll be back.
He'll be back. Yeah, he will leave. I'm certain of it.
Yeah.
He's not. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Just because we there's another player that
he went to Kilmarnock back in last season
and
never really got started up. The injuries have just.
That's what I'm saying. Liverpool have got a lot of players. Liverpool have got a lot of players, and it'll be interesting to see how the manager.
Rhys Williams is still a Liverpool player.
That's mad, that, isn't it?
There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot. Let's say it'll be interesting to see what that tour and party looks like. Let's move on then. Actually, I want to speak about that before we get a couple more team-specific stuff. You guys are both going on the tour. So, for those who aren't aware, Liverpool play AC Milan in Hong Kong on Saturday the 26th, and then they play Yokohama in Japan on the 30th. You're both looking forward to, Dan, you looking forward to getting over there. That's a pretty special trip you've got there. Yeah. I'm very envious of you both.
Yeah, you know what? I'm very fortunate. Campus are very lucky to be heading over, to be honest with you. Because I mentioned some of the youngsters who might find themselves on this tour. It's a boss experience for them. It's a boss experience for us, really. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. Getting up close and personal with the squad and seeing some of the training sessions and obviously the matches and just experiencing a different culture, a different place entirely. And I've never been anywhere like that in my life. You know what I mean? That is completely out of my comfort zone in many ways. But yeah, honestly, proper looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to be relying on Dan to keep me safe, however, because let's be honest, if I was allowed to just go on my own, I'd get lost massively.
I don't think that's just because you were...
No, that's just because me. Just because I literally would not have a clue. Like I remember going to France in 2022 for the final, and my good God, if there wasn't people there with me, I would not have been able to get to the stadium. Like,
pressure on me,
the
then.
trains, I nearly lost my head. So yeah, but I'm really excited to go. I'm excited because, you know, you went to America, but it's different out there in terms of the way the team act. You know, the open training sessions, people getting to, you know, meet the players and get things signed and stuff. It's just a different kind of atmosphere to what we get over here. And
You're
like
not allowed to do that, by the way.
No, of course not.
You're not right there, because listen, Liverpool will count this as serious work, of course they will. But the serious work starts Community Shield, and this is all in preparation for that serious work. So there will be that ever so slightly more laid back, ever so slightly more, more of a comfort around the whole thing, a relaxed atmosphere, like you say.
And also, you know, we're going over there to have some fun. We're not going to try and ask any ridiculous questions or put the players under the pressure. We're just there to go and see what the atmosphere is like. And like you said there, I didn't think I'd have ever gone to this part of the world had it not been for this opportunity. So yeah, very thankful to go and see another culture, another place, and you know, it'll be pretty special, hopefully.
And make some excellent content. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah.
We need to do that, don't we?
It's kind of the reason you're going.
Forgot about
I'm all right sanctioning the trip and the sheer ridiculous amount of money it's cost to send you there, but in return I wouldn't mind a few videos and podcasts if that's not too much trouble.
See what we can do.
in between,
I'll think about it.
In between
paddle with hopefully some of the footballers, we'll try.
And you going to Tokyo Disneyland. I know that's on your list as well.
I'm glad you said Chloe.
If you could please make some content for the viewers and listeners, that would be appreciated.
If they really want something, you know what I mean.
At this point, yeah.
Just drop a comment if you do or don't.
I mean, say yes, otherwise, yeah. I mean, we've got to claw some of the money back. It's ridiculous on that one. But yeah, I'm hoping that you both have a good time. Dan, the interesting one actually, the ties kind of everything into a bow here really before the chat here, is that double header against Athletic Club. Interesting that, yeah, like I say, 2 games on the same day. Liverpool have done this before last year. One of them was behind closed doors. It was different opposition. This time it's different. It's like both in front of fans at Anfield. Maybe then you get the hint of what the manager's thinking first team wise. I think last year most of the team, it wasn't quite the same because I know like Andy Robertson played in that second game and stuff, didn't he? But most of the team was the same for the following weekend. It'll be interesting to see that double header game is going to be quite something to see.
Yeah, that'll be when we get a really firm idea of what Slot's plans are for Bournemouth, I would imagine. That's not to say we won't get little nods and little hints along the way before that, but I think, as you say, that first game against Athletic, it's interesting to see, because obviously it is slightly different this time around because they're both in front of fans and it is the same opposition. There might be a different conversation. You might see 2 mix and match sides, you know what I mean? That's imminently possible for this. Last time it was Sevilla in front of fans, and then Las Palmas behind closed doors. Me and Chloe again were fortunate enough to be there for the entirety of the afternoon, so we got to see both games. It was strange. It was great, but a weird thing. Obviously, the fans are there, and then you go back inside, and they're not, and you're still in the same place, and you're about to watch another game. It was all very unique. But Liverpool, Arne Slot clearly likes this. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not quite sure what the extra sort of importance you get from it and what he does like so much about it. But it's an interesting little conundrum, an interesting little situation he's got himself in twice now in a row. But yeah, I wonder whether this time, like I say, it will be just 2 mix and match teams. He will just treat it as 2 normal pre-season friendlies, whereas last time it was very telling and it was quite stark, really. Robertson was the standout in the second game, but it was very much your senior lads and your periphery lads that time. Yeah,
I think a lot of it's more like he would like to get an hour into like 20 different lads, and the only way to do that is to play 2 games. It's impossible to do the other way around. That'll be something to see. Finally, then, any more little questions or anything that you think we might get answered over the next few weeks? I've certainly got a couple. If I can fire them at you, if you want.
Go for it, yeah.
Like I say, the Jayden Danns thing, is he fit and available? Yeah. We don't know yet. Like I say, but it'd be interesting to see if he can get himself some minutes, because like I say,
it's important.
He get his career back on track because after that back injury. I'm also interested, at any point do we see Jeremy Frimpong play as a right winger? Because there's this talk that there's going to be games where, especially during AFCON or whatever, where Mo Salah's away. At any point will we see Gomez or Bradley at right back with Jeremy Frimpong as right winger? That could be something as well that I think we get answers for. Because if he doesn't do it now, I'd be shocked if he just did it in like December when Mo Salah goes. Like, he's going to have to have done it at some point.
No, I think that's right, and I think we will. For what it's worth, I believe we will see that exact combination, that Bradley behind and Frimpong ahead. I think how much or how early we see it might depend on Doak. and Chiesa a little bit in terms of how ready they are and sort of how much they need minutes and what have you. One thing I'm interested in seeing, you touched upon it earlier on, we saw it in the season a little bit in terms of tweaks of systems, tactic formations. We saw like the 2-10s and we saw different things, certainly in pre-season, as you mentioned. But I wonder whether we'll see a 3 at the back at any point. Just because of the fullbacks that we've signed. I mentioned Frimpong, he's played loads as a right wing back. You know what I mean? Kirkes feels like he could easily do a left wing back. We don't quite have the centre back capacity to do it often, I don't think right now. Yeah. But I do wonder whether at some point we just see a 3 at the back, just to be more adaptable and have more sort of in-game changes and more ways to hurt teams and more ways to play maybe. We didn't really see that at all, I don't think, last pre-season or season. I wonder whether this time we do.
Yeah, makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. There's definitely scope for it. I remember in America, he played the first game with no strikers.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And he had a couple of different tactical tweaks. You guys will see this more as well if you're allowed to open training sessions, just like the kind of things the manager's working on. I was really up close to him, and he was doing the passing drills, and he basically had to go with a couple of players for how they did it or didn't do it as well. And Arnold was heavily involved in those. So
I remember you saying like there's a risk sentence you took from that at one point, like about basically not playing risky passes essentially.
Every time we lose the ball, we lose a chance to score, is what he said. He was having a go at Endo.
About actually, percentages, wasn't it?
So the other thing is, what we could tell massively last pre-season was when we played Sevilla, couldn't really hear the communication or anyone, and then you played Las Palmas and you could hear the bench, you could hear people fuming at each other. Like when something didn't go right, you could hear slot. And that's something that, you know, maybe in the open training sessions we'll be able to see again is, you know, people not having a go at each other, but instructing them on where to improve and how to improve. So yeah, that'll be interesting as
well. Like I say, there's plenty. I think there's so many questions for Liverpool. It's like, first of all, system, the new players are exciting. Who's staying? Which of the young lads is up the pecking order? How he managed that again? He's taken a really bloated squad there, so something's gonna have to give. But it all starts this weekend. By the way, we start against Preston. The game is on Sunday. Kicks off at 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 o'clock Sunday. Me and Errol will be in the studio, by the way, for a little watch along. It won't be the full kit and caboodle watch along, but we'll be live if you want to join us for that one. I think the plan as it stands is to have a watch along for the Preston, AC Milan, and then the 2 Bilbao games. We're not sure about the Yokohama game yet. I'm on holiday, and then you two are going. You'll be in Japan, and I think Paul's coming to meet you in Japan.
Yeah.
So so we'll wait and see on that. But the rest of them, come and join me in Edinburgh at the weekend for sure. That Wednesday one's a bit mad because like 11:30 UK time. So trying to get people to do a watch along when they're all actually in their proper jobs and everyone else who works here isn't here is becoming a little bit of a thing. But yeah, do come and join us for that one. We'll be looking forward to getting back in the watch along hot seat. Right then, guys, thanks very much for joining us today. Thanks everyone for watching or listening to the show. Like I say, come back at the weekend. We will have the watch along for that Preston game. See you all there.